Here's where I'm at with these steps. I am going to just put 2 stringers in. I'm just going to put one down the middle here, one down the middle there. I went out and bought these 2-inch by 8-inch by 8-foot pressure treated boards, and I'm going to make my own stringers for the steps. Never done it before, but I will figure it out. I'm going to have to dig this bottom part out down in here in order to get the stringers down to the appropriate level down in there. And I was originally not going to work on the steps yet, but it rained last night. I wanted to put some treated wood sealant on the top of all these boards, just to, I mean, because I don't know how old it is. It's got to be pretty old, but I just wanted to hopefully preserve it some more. I was also going to work on that rot spot right there that's now filled with water, but I'm gonna have to cut that out and fill it in. But I want all the wood to be dry, so I can use this pressure treated wood sealant on everything, especially where all the nail holes are, to hopefully get those sealed up so that they don't become rot spots. Because with the new Trex deck boards, screws don't go into the actual deck boards, they go in between them, which is a good thing. Less screw holes. So I'm going to rip these treads out on the steps and then go from there. The reason why I bought these 2-inch by 8-inch by 8-foot boards for the stringers for the steps is because I went in to buy stringers, and I guess if you do this all the time you would know this, but I didn't. Stringers are $30 and one of these boards is $15. So I mean, I got it, you're paying for the stringers to be cut the way they're supposed to be, but if you can cut stringers, then it's probably worth it to just buy the boards and do it yourself. And like I said, I've never done it, but hopefully I can do it right and not regret it. Got all the treads off the stairs or stringers. Hopefully there's no concrete there and I can put my own, or if there is concrete there, hopefully it's level so that I can put my stringers in. Well, we'll see. As you can see, the stringer is a lot wider than the board I got, but it still meets code requirements as far as how thick it's supposed to be right here. So I'm going to cut it this way, but what I will also do is reinforce it so that it'll have a slab or like a 2x4 that's going across here, just to reinforce it. But otherwise, I mean, I still think it's good. Got one stringer done, matches up pretty good. The only thing is this one's got this notch, but of course I've lost most of it using the different size wood. And then what little notch was there, I mistakenly almost completely cut it off, but it really wasn't serving much of a purpose because it was on the underside of the cleat, so didn't serve a purpose. So that's one. I get one more done. I have both of my new stringers completed. Now that all these cuts are fresh, I'm going to use this cut and treat wood preservative just to brush it on. After you get through making your cut, seal it up, so everywhere that there's a cut, I'll apply it with a brush. And then what I'm also going to do is go ahead and put it on this one just to seal it back up. It probably was never done in the first place, so I'll go ahead and do that one as well. Cut and treat's got a green color to it, I guess, to make it look similar to the pressure treating that was already done. Go ahead and let those dry up and work on some other things while I'm waiting. Here's where I'm at with the stairs. I got all my stringers in, checking to make sure they're level, making sure every little thing is completely level. Seems like an almost impossible task, and what I ended up doing was putting these broken blocks down here in order to get the stairs sitting level the way they should be. But what I'm going to do, or what I did do, is I added this 2x4 with another 2x4 cut in half, screwed to each other, and then with level across all of the stringers, I put the board on and then adjusted it to where everything is level across. And since it's already screwed in at the top, and then I've got screws going into each of the risers, and what I now should be able to do is kick these blocks out, and then what I want to do is pour concrete in where those blocks are, let the concrete dry, and hopefully it'll have better support and it won't be like the previous way that they had done this. Could just leave it with these blocks in here, but I would prefer taking those out, pouring concrete in, and letting those stringers sit solidly on top of some poured concrete. Of course, I'm not going to pour as much concrete as big as this hole is. I don't want to get carried away with how much I put in there. And then the other thing I did is I did put some all-purpose sand, coarser sand aggregate. I put those under the blocks just to make it easier to get it leveled out properly. So these are spaced properly and they are level. So the next step is pulling the blocks out and then setting up the ground so that I can pour concrete in while I work on other projects related to the deck. Here it is, day 3. Got my additional stringers in. With this 2x4 going across, it was holding it level while I pulled the blocks out that were at the bottom. So basically the bottom of the stringers were floating. And then what I did is poured concrete in. There's about 4 inches underneath each of the stringers, so that the stringers will have something solid to sit on besides just the blocks. The blocks could potentially move. This concrete won't necessarily move. What I'm also going to do is it didn't have this before, but I'm going to clear out the front of the end of these stringers, and I'm just going to put a toe board there just to make sure that they stay evenly spaced across the bottom. But it'll also help prevent, well, not necessarily help prevent, but it could potentially help with the stringers not twisting, because just because they're in the concrete doesn't mean they won't twist. But putting that kickboard in there will potentially help out. Got the painting done. I had to pressure wash it, and I had to let it dry, and then scrape some loose paint off and then repaint it. And one of the other things I'll have to do is go back through and add some exterior caulking between the concrete and the logs. Mainly I want to focus underneath the deck, because the deck sits closed all the time. You don't know what's happening underneath, and now that I have it open, I'm going to go ahead and close those up. Make sure I push that caulk into crack, because it looks like whoever did this before just put it on the surface just to close it up, but didn't necessarily really seal it, because it's sitting on there very loosely, especially down here. The other thing I'm going to do today is fix that. Probably just cut it out, and then I'll use some Bondo to close it up. It's small enough that I'm not going to replace it or cut it out. I'll just Bondo it. Here's where I'm at. I've got the complete top of the deck. Now what I'm going to do is do the steps. So I'm going to be using these start-stop clips, and those go along here, and then I will use the hide away spacers in here. The instructions for Trex say that you can go no more than 1.5 inches over. I don't know if the instructions didn't make it clear that it would be common that somebody would leave this exposed like this edge. I don't really like it, but even if I cut it back, it's still going to be brown in this grayish color. So I'm going to start with the clips, put the spacers in, see where this board sits as far as how far out. If it sits too far out, then I will trim it. And like I said, I believe the instructions said no more than 1.5 inches. Stuff is pretty tough, but I can see how after time, or something very heavy getting right on the edge of it, that this could possibly break. That's where I stand on getting these steps done. And I'm actually short a couple boards because these down here were actually underground, so I didn't even take that into account. That's 2 boards that I didn't account for. I have to go get some additional boards if necessary. Something else is I noticed when I was making the measurements for these boards, as far as the length coming towards the steps, that this board underneath supporting the deck boards is warped. And then when they put a spacer board that is right in the middle somewhere, it's right in here somewhere, it actually pushed this 2x8, I believe, out. So when I started cutting these, they came out slightly different sizes. So I may have to run a saw straight down to get a nice clean edge, but may just leave it like it is. It definitely looks a lot better than it did previously. So that's where I stand. I'm going to stick a start-stop clip up here at the top of each one of the risers, and then go from there. This is a Trex end start clip, and you can see that it's pretty narrow, and that is how big the screw is. This is a Fasten Master end start clip. You can see it's almost twice as wide, and then also the screw is over 1/4 inch longer. Take that into account when you're purchasing. I'm sure they do sell just the clips, but the Fasten Master, these do come just as clips. These, the Trex ones, come as part of the universal fastener combination pack, and you only get 4 of them. That's it. But when you buy Fasten Master type, there's 25 in the box. One of the issues that I'm running into, especially with these older stringers, is that well, it's actually the majority of the deck structure that existed already, and not sure how old it is, but I did notice when putting the hideaway clips on the deck that in some cases the screws spun very freely, like they weren't even gripping anything. And I think it's just because of the wood being aged and being soft. So one of the issues I'm running into with these stringers, especially these 3 older ones, every one of them was cracked, and in some cases cracked so bad that there were pieces that were actually coming off. And so what I did is use some exterior glue and put some clamps on it, and then I'm going to put some screws in it, because rather than completely removing the stringers, I'd like to continue to use them, because I definitely don't want to put in 3 more. I already put 2 new ones in. I put exterior glue on these, and then I'm going to put screws in them going in this way to help hold them in place. And then one of the other things I'm going to do is I'm going to use this wood hardener, and I think that'll help penetrate into the wood and make the wood harder, so that it can actually screws can actually get grip in the wood. That's not what it's intended for, but it will make the wood more solid and hopefully help. So that's what I'm doing now. Here's where I am on my steps. So I attempted to repair the cracks in the risers with some glue. I was going to use screws, but the screws are actually making it worse. So stuck with clamps and glue. Unfortunately, it's about 95% humidity here in North Carolina, so the clamps have been on there almost the entire day, and the glue is still wet. And then tonight the dew will come out, everything will be wetter, and then the process will repeat tomorrow. But besides that issue, what I ended up having an issue with is I did have to put a tread on the bottom and then put a board going up. The issue is that there was too much of a gap underneath the top of this tread that would go here, and you're permitted like a 1/2 inch nose sticking out over the edge. The problem I would have is that because of the gap, it would actually be 1.5 inches sticking out. So every time somebody stepped on the edge, it probably wouldn't have lasted very long, because it would probably break off pretty quick. Another option was to move these boards up to support the upper tread, but then I would have this gap down here that would probably cause people with shoes, sandals, to get their foot stuck up underneath it. So I am going with these cuts of composite, and in an attempt to match it as much as possible, I'm going to put it right up underneath so that this top tread is sitting right on top of here, and then this piece will be tied in with a screw that goes through the top of the tread, through the strip, and into this piece here, and that would go all the way down. We'll see what that looks like after I get it done. One of the issues I'm seeing is that some of these risers are higher in some places based on the cuts that were made previously, so there's going to be some up and down, but I think it'll be a whole lot less noticeable, and hopefully those strips being in there will help support the nose or edge of the tread so that it doesn't eventually break off. Might be, well, some of it fell off, but you can see where that plastic or the composite material is coming off. But you can see that I didn't have to drill anymore, but normally there's like a bunch of the composite material melted around the head, and then you can just see it ripped out all the wood that was in the threadings. But so now I either need to start a new hole, or I need to go at a different angle. The issue is this riser wood is not that great on the face because it's got some cracks in it. So I may need to go, I think I'm gonna have to go at an angle, get it in there, or I would have to go a lot further down.